May 5th, 1994, Sao Paulo Airport. Brazil is mourning an idol. Ayrton Senna de Silva, Formula One racing driver, killed during a race at the height of his glory and his art. The Brazilians mourn Ayrton, the dazzling, death-defying champion. Brazil cries for Senna, the embodiment of success in a country plagued by economic crises. This success story came to an abrupt end at 300 kilometers an hour on the Imola racetrack in Italy. Pictures of the accident were seen by more than 2 billion television viewers around the world. Perhaps never before has the death of a champion aroused such widespread emotion.
Ayrton Senna's funeral was a national funeral. People who were there were astonished by the strange atmosphere in Sao Paulo, which is usually so boisterous. But that day, there was absolute quiet. They were burying a god.
Então, mas foi o dia mais negro da minha vida, porque você não aceita o Ayrton Senna, aquele ídolo, e morrer.
In Brazil, the football matches came to a halt. Senna had just died. Players were on their knees on the pitch. It was a terrible shock. Their idol had fallen. Their idol had perished.
There is a certain amount of danger in motor racing. So anytime you go driving, testing or racing, you are exposed to some risks. There are calculated risks and there are unexpected situations that can happen. And you can be gone just in a fraction of a second. So you realize that you're nobody. Suddenly you're nobody and your life can have an end sudden. This is part of your life and you either face it in a professional, in a cool manner, or you just drop it, you just leave it and don't do it anymore, really. And I happen to like too much what I do to just drop it. I can't drop it. It's part of my life.
It is 3 days before the San Marino Grand Prix, staged in Italy at the Imola racetrack. Ayrton Senna arrives in his private plane from Portugal, where he lives when the Formula One season hits Europe. The Thursday morning is taken up by commercial obligations. The champion is launching a bicycle in his name. At the age of 34, business is taking up more and more of the billionaire's time, but here in Italy, the priority is of a sporting nature. The champion is preparing a major step forward in his career as a racing driver. After a disastrous start to the season, Senna has to win in Imola. It is a crucial year for the Brazilian. He has been world champion 3 times, but the last title came 3 years previously. After 10 years competition, Senna is a Formula One veteran, but he still aims to beat Fangio's record of 5 world crowns. With this objective in mind, just a few months ago he left McLaren, with whom he had won everything, to join Williams-Renault, who won the title last year with Frenchman Adam Prost.
Ayrton was changing teams. He had left McLaren, and at McLaren they have a lot of respect for the drivers. They cherish them. This wasn't the case with Williams, and it isn't the case yet either. It's a British team through and through, and I would describe it as cold. The atmosphere is cold. I say that because Prost, who was with Williams in '93 the year before, told me that. And perhaps that too had an effect on Ayrton, who needed to feel appreciated. Because ultimately Formula One race drivers are very lonely. At the moment you take your position in your car and put your helmet on, you're all alone. So there has to be someone beside you. You have to be able to feel the collective team spirit, where 100 members of the team are there at the Grand Prix alongside you. and I don't know if this was the case with Williams.
He thought he was joining the team which had the best car, because, obviously, his idea was to have the best car and immediately become world champion. But from a technical point of view, he realized that the car was far from being the one he had dreamt of. In fact, the car was pretty tricky at high speed and didn't really inspire much confidence in the driver. Ayrton noticed this very quickly from the first laps he made in testing, and several weeks before the start of the season, he knew it was going to be very difficult.
The car wasn't a great technical success. It was a car that could potentially be quick, but the margin for exploiting its possibilities was extremely limited, and only a really gifted driver, in my view, would be able to drive it within that very narrow window.
I remember well, he came to me in testing and said, the car is really difficult to drive and there's something wrong on the car in the way how the aerodynamics works. We have to improve it. The car is not competitive at the moment. Even so, he managed to put the car in pole position in the beginning of '94. So, but that was him, that was not the car.
When he arrives at Imola, Senna has perhaps not yet tamed his new machine, but he is still the indisputable king of qualifying. An exercise in pure speed, where only the fastest over a single lap has the right to first place on the starting grid. Senna has but one challenge: to go faster than the others.